Thank you for listening to the 39th Street Church of Christ Daily Devotional. The devotional today is Karma by Jack Williams. Several years ago, I was riding in the truck with my grandson, Xander, and they'd just gotten a new dog, and they named the dog Karma. I thought that was an interesting name, and so I looked over to Xander, and we was driving along, and I said, Xander, you know what karma is, don't you? Well, he sat there quiet for a minute, and finally he looked at me like I was a bit crazy, and he said, well, it's a dog. Well, whenever we think of karma, think of a dog, but also we realize that it is the repercussions, the consequences. You see somebody who cuts in and out of traffic, and then here comes a policeman. Consequence, instant karma, getting the consequences that come from your actions and such. Well, the Bible speaks about that, not in the using that word, but you find, for example, in 2 Corinthians, the 5th chapter and verse 10, that we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, that we can receive the things done in our bodies, whether it be good or whether it be evil. You see, there's good karma and there's bad karma. Well, we need to realize that in life. Whenever we go through life, sometimes people don't think about what's ahead. I remember growing up, my dad would look at me, and I can remember times whenever he'd say, son, what were you thinking? What did you think was going to happen? And other times he'd just walk away shaking his head because he knew I wasn't thinking, and he wasn't sure if he could get me to think about consequences. Well, the Christian life is important that we realize that we go through life, and there are consequences. There are good consequences. If we continue steadfast in his doctrine, then we show forth that we're his disciples, as we are told. In John, the 8th chapter, and verse 31, if you continue in my word, then you're my disciples. Well, we also know that if we do bad things, the writer in Galatians said, in Galatians, the 6th chapter, and verse 7, God is not mocked. We'll reap what we sow. Well, you look at the world about us, and there are people who think there are no consequences. The rioting that goes on, the ungodly actions, families destroyed, drinking. All these things go on, and people act like nothing's going to happen. I'll always go back to 2 Corinthians 5 and verse 10. We will stand before the judgment seat. In this life, there are consequences, both good and bad, to what we do. But we live looking forward to the time that is described in Matthew 25. All nations will stand before God. And we will experience karma. We'll experience the consequences of our actions. Of course, if we choose to do good, well done, thou good and faithful servant. Enter thou in. That's the great thing. But then there's that sad thing, depart from me, ye that work iniquity. Karma's real. Karma's more than a dog. Karma is something that children of God long for. The Apostle Paul, whenever he was facing death, he knew there were consequences. So he said he'd finished his course. He'd fought a good fight. He'd kept the faith. He said, henceforth there's laid up for me a crown of righteousness, which the Lord himself shall give unto me. But then he said, not unto me only, but to all them that look for his appearing. That's the way we live our lives. We live it expectantly, knowing that God will reward the just. What a grand and wonderful thing it is to experience that karma. Thank you for listening. You have a good day.
Thank you for taking the time to watch this short devotional. We encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you'll be notified of other devotionals that will be forthcoming. Also, we encourage you to join us online live as we stream our services at each service time. More information can be found on our website at the link below. Thank you.